My name is Kenny Craig, and I'm wearing two hats today. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and this year only, I'm the president of the Hamilton Rotary Club. It's a lot of weight. I want to thank you for being here. We have a good crowd today. It shows a lot of interest in the affairs of the city. And I hope you'll be encouraged and have a lot of questions that can be answered today about what's going on in the city. On behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank our centennial sponsors for 2011. They are noted on our banner behind us. Fort Hamilton Hospital. Is anybody here from Fort Hamilton Hospital? And Mercy Hospital Fairfield. Thank you for your sponsorship. Also want to thank our event sponsor, DeCosimo and Company, and I know they're here somewhere. Let's give them a hand. Finally, I want to thank TV Hamilton and the Hamilton Journal-News for their coverage of this event today. For the state of the city today, first I'm going to introduce Mayor Pat Molar. Mayor Pat Molar is a lifelong resident of Hamilton, an attorney for 25 years, and a former assistant prosecutor, and very importantly, a longtime chamber member. Mayor Molar has been on city council now for nearly 8 years and has been mayor since January of 2010. I'd like you to please welcome Mayor Pat Molar, who will begin the State of the City address. Pat?
No problem. Got to get ready here first. Okay. Good afternoon. It's great to be here at the beautiful Marriott. Managing a city is a tough job. There exist different management styles for this tough job. Our city manager, Joshua Smith, is well read on the topic of management. He'll ask me if I've read this book or that book, which I have not. Kind of makes me feel like a literary slacker. But Joshua did lend City Council the management book, Winning, by Jack Welch, former chairman, CEO of GE. And I've got that book right here, Jack Welch, Winning. So I started reading that book. Then I told myself, I'll show Joshua how smart I am. I'll read 2 management books at the same time. So I picked one I really thought would be enjoyable. It's Yogi Berra. It Ain't Over by Yogi Berra. Of course, he's the New York Yankees manager and the baseball great. 2 very, very different managers, but there are similarities. Jack Welch believes strongly in delivering messages with candor. And our city manager will deliver you a message with candor in the second half of this presentation. According to Mr. Welch, candor cuts costs. It gets more people involved into the conversation. It gets every brain into the game with no one being anonymous. And that makes great management sense to me. In Yogi Berra's terms, if you bench a player, you tell him why. Mr. Berra concludes that it is not how many words are spoken that creates a leader, but what words are said. So both those managers communicate in a straightforward manner. And throughout this short speech, I'll sprinkle in there some more Welchisms and Yogiisms. Within the last week, 2 events occurred in 2 different states which reflect significantly on our economic climate. First, the capital city of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, filed for federal bankruptcy code protection. Controversial decision. It truly split Harrisburg leadership. To quote a football defensive player, guarding the end zone from a touchdown, not in our house, baby, not in our house. The translation is, no bankruptcy filings for Hamilton. I could not vote for that. We as a city are going to work through our budget challenges. It will not be easy, but we will right the ship. Will we have to manage operations differently in 2012 than 2011 and 2010? Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Will the changes be controversial? They might be. But as Jack Welch said, there should be a clear purpose for every change, change which must benefit our citizens. Second, the potential shutdown of smart papers in Hamilton was disclosed. Every day of my life, paper has been made at that location. Did that news hurt? Yep, it sure did. But when the disclosure was made, I did not picture in my mind a closed mill. The reason? Economic activity will not be missing from that location very long. In your own mind, picture how you would develop riverfront property along the Great Miami River. There is an endless number of ideas. A wise, experienced trial lawyer once told me to keep making good eye contact with a jury when presenting a jury trial. Eyes reflect sincerity, confidence, credibility. What do I see in my jury's eyes, the eyes of our citizens and the eyes of our administration? A belief that we're going to be okay. We're going to be better than okay. In Hamilton, we do not quit. We do not sit in do-nothing chairs. We make things in Hamilton, Ohio. We make products, including shock absorbers, climate control systems, other car parts, casters, metal products, electric connectors, wind power supplies, flavor extracts, brass and aluminum castings, cleaning supplies, industrial liners, chemicals, replacement windows, and many, many other products, including, yes, we make paper. We still continue to make things in Hamilton, Ohio, and we will still continue to do that for many, many years to come. In Hamilton, we also provide award-winning health care. We educate, we create art, we network with the world. As Yogi Berra says, you can see a lot by observing. And that's true. I've been paying attention during our many, many business retention visits we've had throughout the city, myself, the chamber, and our city administration. I mentioned that we do not sit in do-nothing chairs. All of us here in this room, as members of service organizations in the Chamber of Commerce, are doers. The Hamilton Journal-News recently did a series on Hamilton's unsung leaders, people who give of themselves, such as Dave Ballou and the Carruthers family. They represent the fabric and the spirit of the city of Hamilton, Ohio, and that special spirit that keeps us progressing despite occasional setbacks. And a note to the Journal-News, there are at least 365 people every year who are unsung heroes and unsung leaders. The number is 1,000 or plus, if not many, many thousands of unsung leaders that we have in this city. Now for some city accomplishments for the last 12 months. First and foremost, we created a strategic plan with goals of we create economic opportunity, we create a positive image, we connect people, we create a sense of place. We now have a map for success, so please review that plan on our website. It's a very impressive strategic plan. Hamilton City-owned municipal utilities have continued to maintain rates which result in our customers paying as much as 24% less than other southwestern Ohio non-Hamilton customers. In electric, we've entered into an energy purchase agreement with the efficient natural gas-fired Fremont Energy Power Center. We have nearly completed the largest improvement to the electric distribution system in the history of our system, which will increase electric reliability. We have provided 350 free home energy audits and are replacing incandescent bulbs with LEDs and traffic signals, street lights, and Christmas lights. And the Meldal Hydroelectric Project cofferdam and powerhouse excavation is complete, with an opening project on target for 2014. In gas, we have realized $500,000 in yearly savings in gas transportation costs. We have converted 4 vehicles to natural gas and constructed a natural gas fueling station. In water, we have replaced a West Reservoir elevated tank and booster station due to water demand and fire protection. And a comprehensive water main replacement and rehab study was completed. In wastewater, 3 sanitary sewer overflows have been eliminated. There have been improvements to the treatment plant, including the early stages of the installation of an emergency standby power generator. And we continue to take steps in complying with the modified consent order. In finance, the city saved over $2.45 million in interest costs as a result of refinancing 2 bond issues. In a difficult, tough market, we issued bonds for wastewater improvements and street improvements. We also had very satisfactory audits. In public works, the city instituted an aggressive new recycling program to lessen our dependence on landfill and help the environment. Progress continues on South Hamilton Crossing, which will provide a safer railroad crossing, economic development, and a less congested high street. A stepped-up street paving schedule has benefited our citizens, and our traffic engineers, and you'll be glad to hear this, continue to plan improvements to our high-traffic areas, including a retiming of lights and the planning addition of turn lanes. In parks, we hosted state softball tournaments. A well-renowned girls' fast-pitch softball team called North End Fields our home. The playground program with the guidance of the YMCA continued, and we hosted a City of Hamilton night at the Cincinnati Reds game. The U.S. Archery Championships are also coming back to Hamilton at Joyce Park in 2012. The City Health Department investigated over 6,000 nuisance complaints, vaccinated 1,053 children, protected public health, and educated the community in hygiene, safety, and sanitation. Okay, now here's a Yogi Berraism. I had to throw this one in here. Over a breakfast meal, Yogi told fellow baseball players that the only city in which he ate eggs was Cincinnati. There's got to be a reason for that. I don't know what that reason is, but I'm sure he could safely eat eggs in Hamilton, Ohio, because our health department gets the job done, okay? Now, back to the serious stuff. The fire department procured a SAFER grant to hire 7 additional firemen without using general fund monies, thus lessening the amount of overtime. The department also secured a $120,000 grant to purchase 5 cardiac monitor defibrillators, and another ambulance was put into service as a result of an agreement with Fort Hamilton Hospital. The police department was able to replace 12 old, heavily used police cruisers, providing for safe response to citizens' calls for service. Popular citizens' police academies continue, including an Hispanic police academy. Current staffing levels on patrol have also been maintained. Here's something which I'm very proud of. City Council staff reports are now online so that citizens can read the same reports Council receives for meeting agendas. The online citizen service request option has been popular. If you haven't tried that, please try that. It's been popular, it's been efficient, with the average completion time for requests being less than 7 days. If you've got a problem with a street light or some problems with potholes and the like, within 7 days there should be a response, and that's just the average time. It could be a lot quicker than that. Currently, almost 600 people are receiving our e-Notify newsletter, and also our law department, IT department, and personnel department are providing all of us with support. We have rebuilt our economic development department with motivated specialists, and with their leadership, they're working on several projects, including an improved East High Street corridor, underpass improvement, a land bank effort, and a couple projects which I'm sure Josh was going to go into in his half of this State of the City speech, the creation of a cross-function business development team and a community reinvestment area. And those will be started in early 2012, I believe. We're very excited about both of those projects. We also have a targeted industry development plan. And the downtown is progressing, with the Mercantile Lofts being open, SHP leading design is buzzing, and Ardolph Sims has truly changed the landscape of High Street in Hamilton. River's Edge Amphitheater project, the funding for that phase 1 is secure. Jack Welch said that government is a support engine for the economy, the support engine, and we are developing an excellent support engine with our economic development department. Now, for my golf foursome, so far I have Jack Welch and I have Yogi Berra. I'm the son of a sports writer, so you kind of get all the sports stuff. So let me add former Notre Dame head coach Lou Holtz, and I'm sure Chief Schutte will note that I noted Notre Dame coach Lou Holtz. There you are, Chief. And I'll tell you why I mentioned him to my foursome here in just a second. Being around motivated people motivates me. With motivated people, we will accomplish many projects in our strategic plan created by City Council and City Administration. Coach Holtz says motivation is simple. You eliminate those who are not motivated. Well, our motivation plan is a little different than that, but we have hired motivated people and put the right people in the right place on our organizational chart. Now, I'd like to recognize some of those people and their achievements. Would all city employees please stand? Everybody who works for the city, please stand. These folks deserve your applause. They've worked very hard this year. Thank you very much, and I thank all of you personally for the efforts and the successes that we have had in the last 12 months. Let me introduce council members who are here. Carla Fear, I believe, is here. We have Tim Knabb, Bob Brown, Archie Johnson, and Council Member Kathy Klink and Vice Mayor Rob Weil are at a conference today, and they'll share ideas with us later today. Adam Helms is here. He is our city council clerk and a special economic projects coordinator. Please give them a round of applause. We have worked hard this year. We have worked hard this year as your representatives. We're very open people. The door is always open for you to contact us with your concerns. Now, I'm done with my half, so I'm looking forward to our city manager's half. But let me introduce City Manager Joshua Smith. He's the Aaron Rodgers and Jack Welch of city managers. How about that for pressure?
I love it.
Thank you very much. Joshua Smith.
Good afternoon. Hamilton faces a crisis that is real and unprecedented. Each of us will have to struggle with our conscience and our constituencies as we hammer out a plan to put our city on a sound fiscal footing and honestly balance our budget. Governor Jerry Brown of California gave a very similar statement at his State of the State address, January 31st of 2011. I believe his message is relevant to the city of Hamilton today. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'll be speaking for 15 minutes. We'll have a question and answer session at the end. During my 15 minutes, you will hear about our city's challenges, specific actions in 2012 to address those challenges, and how Hamilton can achieve its vision of being a purposeful destination to live, work, and play. Ronald Reagan said, "Don't be afraid to see what you see." In this room today, I see incredible energy, I see passion for bettering our community, and I see community leaders. The reason Hamilton has been able to be as successful as it has in the 220-year history are because of people like you. Outside, I see people that struggle to fully acknowledge the impact of loss of jobs in industry in Hamilton and how that has negatively impacted our community. As the mayor talked about smart paper potentially closing their doors in the near future, as we've seen other industries in our past 50 years have left, we have struggled to realize what Hamilton's history is going to, or future is going to look like. We know our history well, but I believe our future is still a question mark. Abraham Lincoln in 1858 gave his famous, what is now famous, his House Divided speech. But the concept of a house divided is not something that happened with Abraham Lincoln in 1858. You can go back as far as 50 AD and read the Gospel of Mark and read the verse. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Today I'm going to be talking about things that I believe will help us not have that house being divided. Hamilton has reached a critical juncture in its 220-year history. I believe that right now our community must pursue a common vision and advance a consistent mission of being relentlessly dedicated to the pursuit of prosperity. The strategic plan that the mayor has referenced and that was crafted by our city council needs to be embraced and it needs to be executed. Time is up. We no longer have the luxury of limping along. Our house simply cannot be divided. Abraham Lincoln also said, which is one of my favorite quotes of his, "Be sure to put your feet in the right place, then stand firm." Well, in my mind, standing firm means several things. It means creating a balanced, sustainable budget. I've been here for 13 months. In the 13 months I've been here, our budget has been in a crisis mode. If it was not for an additional $6 million in estate taxes received this year, we'd be facing much harsher challenges in the budget that we're working on right now. But all that $6 million did is kick the can down the road another 12 months, and we'll be standing here at that very point having the very same discussion. We've gotten away from funding necessary capital improvements that will attract talent and enterprise. Our streets are crumbling, our parks are largely being ignored, and that's something that we cannot tolerate. We must carve money out of every budget and put towards these activities. As I've said earlier, we must execute the City Council's strategic plan. I'm not arrogant enough to believe that any strategic plan is perfectly written, but I will tell you there was a vision and there was a mission. And we no longer have the choice of not doing something. We have a plan in place. It has to be executed. Finally, we must preserve what makes Hamilton unique. Our history, our heritage, our architecture, our innovative entrepreneurial spirit, our diversity, arts, culture. Hamilton is different. Hamilton is unique to any other community within a 30-mile drive for these very items. We have things that other communities would love to have, but we must embrace that. I make a point not to go out to Bridgewater Falls very often. If I'm out there once every 6 months, that's a lot. But I actually drove out there because I spoke about that at last year's State of the City address. I talked about why people go there. I talked about the landscaped areas. I talked about the fancy lights. I talked about the water features. They can do that because people go there and they patronize those businesses. There's revenue pouring into Bridgewater Falls. They're opening up new restaurants, it seems like on a monthly basis. We need those restaurants downtown Hamilton. We need those small businesses downtown Hamilton. The McDonald's that's in downtown. I believe the Schmitz are here today. If you've not seen that, that is a tremendous investment in our community. They have faith in Hamilton. They've put their money where their mouth is. We need more developers in our community doing activities such as that. Art Off Sims opened in the last 2 weeks. The Armsteads had faith in Hamilton, and I thank them for that. But we need more. If we are going to preserve these things, if we're going to grow as a community, we need to coalesce around the strategic plan. We need to advance those ideas, and we need to pursue them as hard as we can. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "A genuine leader is not a searcher of consensus, but a molder of consensus." I believe our plan right now is something that we must mold people around and get them pushing it ahead. Specific actions that I believe have to take place in 2012 to put us back on a path of prosperity. We need to improve the East High Street Gateway. This is a plan that was funded privately, that was embraced by the City Council in 2011. It is time to act in 2012. Specifically, aesthetics. The City Council, prior to my arrival, enacted an economic development utility rider. I would like Council, in conjunction with the administration, to come up with a plan in the next 60 days to get that enacted and to start phase 1 of what I would call the aesthetic improvements of the East High Corridor. That would include the relocation of all the overhead utility lines, installation of decorative street lights, installing LED street signage, working with the DOT and changing out the faded tire signage that we currently have. And we started the process of looking at how we can improve our underpass appearance heading into our downtown. Traffic flow. Traffic flow is a must. IRG, who owns the largest building in our downtown, the former Ohio Casualty Building, has told me it does not matter that they're 10 miles off of Interstate 75. They can get past that. What they cannot get past is the fact that the traffic backs up so terribly that instead of taking 10 minutes to get to Interstate 75, sometimes it takes you a half an hour. And that is just not tolerable. Our Public Works Department and our Traffic Engineering Division specifically are in the process of creating a request for proposals for traffic consulting engineering firms to help us with this. Now, we don't have the money today to do a full-blown improvement, which would include widening our underpass, but we do have the ability to fund a study, look at common sense solutions like adding turn lanes, and if nothing else, reducing that travel time as much as we possibly can. And finally, land banking. As you come down the corridor, if you think from Route 4 to the underpass, there are several areas that are less than desirable. Recent legislation will allow us to do some land banking efforts We're going to be working with private development companies. We're going to be working with the city, with the county. Several county officials from Butler County attended a land banking conference last week in Cleveland. But this is something that we must undertake also. Creating a community reinvestment area. This is very near and dear to my heart. If you look at our traditional neighborhoods that surround the core part of our city, our downtown, German Village, Dayton Lane, Rossville, Southeast, 2nd Ward, we need to encourage reinvestment in those areas to revitalize those areas. If you have a strong perimeter to your downtown, you will have a strong downtown. We must put resources into this area, and this is something that costs the city nothing. All it does is create an environment, if someone wants to come in and redevelop a house, for example, that any improvement to that property for a 10 to 15 year period, those improvements, the taxes on those improvements will be abated. That is the incentive. The city's also working in conjunction with that in creating different assistance programs, from a down payment assistance program to other programs, to encourage investment in those areas. Create a gap financing entity. This is something that we've been advancing very hard in the last couple months. Think of 3CDC in the city of Cincinnati and what they've been able to do in Over the Rhine. Same concept. We need to fund what we're currently calling CORE, in honor of the core of the downtown, Consortium for Ongoing Reinvestment Efforts. And this would be a gap financing, so if you have a developer, someone, to just use a very specific example, like a Kuhn Restoration that's currently working on the mercantile lofts, it would help them provide financing when there's a gap in that, so they can move a project forward. You'll see on the screen here the 3 photos. This is SHP Architecture in the Mercantile building, and these are some of the loft apartments. This is exactly the type of investment we need in our community. We need more of this. But with the economy the way it is, and lending institutions tightening up credit standards, we need to do something proactive. To me, this is probably the most critical thing we can do in 2012 to advance the traditional neighborhoods and the core part of our downtown and move those forward. Again, just a visual reference, if you can imagine the downtown being here, surrounding the downtown or traditional neighborhoods, again, utilizing the core gap financing, the community reinvestment areas, down payment assistance, land banking. There's a lot of efforts. The time is over to stop talking about it. We have to advance the agenda. We need to start taking positive action. The mayor touched on creating a business development team. The 2 sole purposes for doing that is enhancing customer service and getting rid of more red tape. I'm not saying anything bad about the past or how we handled business retention or new businesses coming in, but we must have a better face as the economy makes area cities more competitive, working towards economic development. This is a work in progress. It is underway. We do have someone that's in charge of this, but this is something that we're going to be advancing very aggressively in the next few months. Phase 1 of the River's Edge project, which includes the park, amphitheater, and bike trail. This has been on the city's radar for several years. The funding was largely obtained from the Department of Transportation. There's been some private funding included, primarily through the Community Foundation. But this is a project, again, that sits right next door to the Marriott that we're all sitting at today to advance our downtown. We have several vacant office buildings within the community. We just finished a targeted industry analysis from Silver Lode Consulting out of Cleveland. The question I had when I first came here, what is Hamilton built for? What industry should we be targeting? Who do we need to be aggressively going after? The targeted industry analysis did exactly that. It looked at industries nationwide. It surveyed a lot of people that are actually in the room today to get input. And we now have a document in place where we are going to be targeting, instead of just using a shotgun approach and going after businesses, we're going to focus our approach and go after the 5 to 7 that make the most sense for Hamilton and rely on the assets that we currently have. Finally, my last action in 2012 I want to talk about. I've recently asked several people, many of you are in the room today, to sit on the City Manager's Blue Ribbon Committee for Economic Vitality. This committee has been put together mostly by very large business owners, again, to focus on the thing that's most important to Hamilton right now, which is job creation, but it's also talk about budgeting and financial issues and how do we make Hamilton more successful in general. If you're on this list and you're in the room today, I would appreciate if you would just stand up just for a moment. And this group will be meeting on a quarterly basis throughout 2012, and I'm very excited about the input that this group will be providing. I don't have Yogi Berra, but I do have Dwight Eisenhower. Once when General Dwight Eisenhower was under siege, he sent a sergeant out to do reconnaissance. When he returned, the sergeant gave a brief assessment. He said, "Sir, imagine a donut. We are the whole." Applying this historical anecdote to Hamilton today, if we are the whole, the issues that surround the city of Hamilton include: we have an unsustainable city budget, largely predicated on the loss of jobs and businesses. There still seems to be a negative image or perception of Hamilton when you talk to folks outside of this community. And as we already talked about, our declining traditional neighborhoods. These are the issues that the strategic plan were built around. These are the issues that we must attack today. We know what they are. Going back to what Ronald Reagan said, you cannot be afraid to see what you see. This is what I see. This is what we have to acknowledge, and this is what we have to work towards. How do we fix these items? In conclusion, the city of Hamilton over the years has seen great devastation. We've seen floods, we've seen fire, but through all the adversity that we have seen, we as Hamiltonians have always picked ourselves up, we've always dusted ourselves off, and we've always been prepared to meet the next set of challenges. We know what we must do. Now is the time to do it. I want to thank the city's executive leadership team, if they would please stand. The city's executive leadership team is the group that works with me on a weekly basis to advance our strategic agenda. Charlie Young, Tim Wordman, Hillary Stevenson, thank you much for your hard work all year. We have several members of our large management team also present with us today. If you would please stand and be recognized. Again, their work is absolutely invaluable as we work towards the city's agenda. I want to take the time again to thank the City Council for their very strong leadership. For that, I do thank you. But most importantly, I want to thank the businesses that believe in Hamilton and continue to invest in our community today. Without our businesses, the City of Hamilton is nothing. So to all the businesses that have started, that have reinvested, that are doing positive things in this community, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this is what we need. Thank you. The mayor is going to come back up, and we'd be happy to address any questions from the crowd. Yes, sir.
When will we see the Tiger 3 funding approval for the Southside Crossing?
Well, hopefully very soon. The application is in, and it's for South Hamilton Crossing. That's one of the things that would, in my mind, would definitely help alleviate the traffic congestion we have at High and MLK. It would also help us spur some industrial growth.
So at any time.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you share with us the target businesses that you discovered with your survey that you're going to start targeting those?
A lot of it was actually predicated on our strong utility resources, our strong water resources, everything that would have to do with the food and beverage industry, IT type activities, because we can provide electric at an extremely competitive cost. There was, I don't have it in front of me, but trying to think of economic development wants to chime in. No? Yeah, well, call centers was one that because we have very competitive office space and also, again, very competitive utilities. But the food and beverage, IT, health insurance, and health insurance / medical, and call centers were the 5 that they thought that we were best suited for.
Got a question for you, Josh, and myself. That Silver Lode development project, is that available, a summary of that available for anybody who might want to see it?
Yes, the mayor was asking if anyone had an interest in reading the summary that Silver Lode created. We could provide that on. It's very large, so we probably couldn't put it on our webpage, but we could burn it on a disk for you and provide it. If anyone just wants to send me an email, I'd be happy to send that along. Yes?
possible widening of the underpass? Would there be consideration of alternate underpasses?
Well, I said that we don't have the money to widen the underpass, which would probably be the most logical thing to improve traffic flow at that intersection. I said we had to look at alternate things like adding turn lanes and other things.
Definitely high up on our list of things to do is to help the traffic congestion that we all face on High Street and other parts of our town. I mean, it's definitely high up, and we are working on that even as we speak.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, what's the city's bond rating?
We have several bond ratings depending on what area, but our general fund bond rating is a AA3.
Question over here.
In regards to that core, are you looking for venture capitalists outside of the region or people predominantly in the region?
To do the actual development itself or to fund it?
To fund it.
Right now we're looking mostly just in this immediate area. Yes?
Could you explain what land banking is?
Land banking is where you can acquire property at a more competitive, once the land is acquired, there's some things, some property tax incentives if you put it into a formal land bank. There's legislation that would have to be passed locally that would be predicated on recent state legislation, but it would just be more favorable terms of holding land until it can be repurposed for something else. Yes, sir.
A lot of talk about consolidation of services with the county and other government entities. Where do you see that going?
Well, I truly believe that in the next couple of years that we're going to see more and more of that with the budget that was passed by the state earlier this year and the reduction in state shared revenues. It's going to come to a point where that's going to be it's just going to be forced. I mean, there's just no other way around it, in my opinion.
We've been very open, and Joshua has taken a lead in meeting with other city managers on that issue.
In the county. We've had the county administrator and area city managers talking about that specific issue, trying to identify the areas that make the most sense to do that. Yes, sir.
Beyond the River's Edge Park site, is there any specific, anything in the works for the Mercy Hospital property?
Nothing specific. We've talked to several development companies, developers about that site itself, but there's definitely nothing concrete or nothing pending.
That'll be a magnet. That'll be a magnet for other development. Once that amphitheater is open and people are there and using it.
Yes, sir.
Other than trying to get new buyers into our communities, do you have a specific plan for the adjacent communities to give them basically a facelift to help?
Well, I think the best way, in my opinion, the best way to give the adjacent communities a facelift would be to provide incentives for people to invest in those areas. And that's, in my opinion, that is what we're trying to do with the core fund that would provide gap financing, but also if individuals want to come in and buy a property, for example, to abate the taxes on that new investment to that, for example, a single-family home, we're hoping that an incentive like that would spur some growth.
Those community reinvestment areas, I think, is going to be a great success. It's going to bring in, I think, new investors, as well as some people who already own property may want to improve the properties to get the benefit of that designation.
Yes, sir.
At one point, there was a plan to look at helping the north and west side of the community with the traffic dishes across the top of town. Are we still looking at somewhere down the road on that?
I would say that it's definitely on the radar. South Hamilton Crossing is probably the more prominent large transportation improvement we're looking at right now. But that would be in my opinion, that would be the best thing to alleviate the traffic congestion we have on High and MLK.
It's the most realistic at this point in time, from a timeline.
Any more questions? If not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you guys have any plans for public transit again? Could you repeat that?
The question was, are there any plans for public transit?
Like busing or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not been in very recent discussions, no. All right, no other questions? Okay, we got work to do.
Well, it sounds like we certainly have our work cut out for us, and I mean all of us here. We all support the city, and we should, and I'm willing, we should be there to support what's going to happen because it will make it a better place for us to live, in which to live. We're adjourned.
Past president.
You mean the High Street?